You can buy a medieval Scottish castle for less than a luxury apartment, which sounds like the greatest bargain in real estate history, until 3 days after you move in, someone climbs onto the roof and hands you a repair estimate for £300,000 just for the roof. And somehow, that still isn't the reason castles bankrupt people, because buying the castle is actually the cheapest part. And that's the trap. The asking price makes castles look like incredible bargains. Every few years, a medieval Scottish castle appears on the market for around £800,000, sometimes £1 million, occasionally even less. Less than some apartments in London, less than many homes in parts of California. On paper, it sounds absurd. You're getting towers, stone walls, hundreds of years of history, acres of countryside. The kind of property that normally belongs in fairy tales, history books, or inheritance disputes. So why would something like that cost less than a luxury apartment? Because the purchase price isn't really the price. It's the entry fee. Imagine finding the perfect castle. The photographs look incredible. The estate agent talks about history. The views are spectacular. You start imagining Christmas dinners in a great hall that survived 500 years. You make an offer. The deal closes. Congratulations. You now own a medieval castle. Now the real spending begins. Because almost immediately, the castle starts introducing itself. You repair the roof, but the contractor discovers water damage hidden inside a wall. You repair the wall. Then an engineer notices movement in one of the towers. You stabilize the tower. Then somebody uncovers a drainage problem that may have been quietly developing since the 18th century. Every repair uncovers another repair. Normal houses have maintenance. Castles have story arcs. And every chapter comes with an invoice. Which is why experienced owners will tell you something that sounds completely ridiculous. Buying the castle is often the cheapest part. For heavily damaged castles, restoration costs can run 5 to 10 times the purchase price. There are documented cases where restoration estimates exceeded acquisition costs by more than tenfold. A castle that costs £1 million to buy can easily demand several million more before it becomes comfortable, functional, and structurally secure. At this point, you might be wondering why castles are so difficult to own in the first place. The answer is simple. They were never designed to be homes. They were designed to survive attacks. Think about the priorities of a medieval architect. Could enemy soldiers break through the walls? Good. Could archers defend the tower? Excellent. Could the building survive a siege? Perfect. Now compare that to the priorities of a modern homeowner. Can I get decent Wi-Fi? Can I install underfloor heating? Will Amazon find the address? These are not the same priorities. Not even remotely. Medieval builders spent a lot of time thinking about arrows. They spent almost no time thinking about insulation. And nowhere does that become more obvious than winter. Because the biggest surprise for many first-time owners isn't the maintenance, it's the heating bill. Scotland is cold. Castles are large. Stone is remarkably good at absorbing warmth and then refusing to let it stay where you want it. Imagine trying to heat 30 rooms, connected by endless corridors, with ceilings so tall they could comfortably host a giraffe. At some point, you're no longer heating a home. You're attempting to change the temperature of a fortress. And fortresses are not particularly cooperative. Some historic estates report heating costs alone running into tens of thousands of pounds annually. Larger properties can spend dramatically more. Every winter becomes an economic event. And just when you think the solution is simple, spend more money, install better systems, modernize the building, the castle introduces its next challenge: permission. A normal homeowner owns a property. A castle owner often owns a historical artifact. Imagine your windows need replacing. Easy. Call a contractor. Choose new windows. Problem solved. Except your castle happens to be several hundred years old. Now conservation authorities would like a conversation. Actually, several conversations. Because once a building becomes historically important, it stops being entirely yours. You own it, but you're also responsible for preserving it. Therefore, every repair becomes more complicated. Every modification becomes more expensive. And every improvement becomes a negotiation between modern comfort and historical authenticity. The average homeowner asks, "What's the cheapest option?" The average castle owner asks, "What am I legally allowed to touch?" And by now, castle ownership sounds less like real estate and more like a very expensive role-playing game. Repair the roof, restore the stonework, upgrade the heating, submit planning applications, defeat moisture, fight bureaucracy, level up. And somehow, despite all of this, people keep buying castles. Which brings us to the real mystery. Why? Most people assume the answer is prestige, and they're partly right. A Ferrari tells people you're wealthy. A private jet tells people you're successful. A medieval castle tells people you've somehow acquired a piece of history. There are millions of luxury cars. There are only so many authentic medieval castles. Scarcity creates status. But prestige doesn't explain the economics. Prestige doesn't pay for a £300,000 roofing project. Prestige doesn't fund restoration. Prestige doesn't explain why people willingly take on enormous financial risk, which means something else must be happening. Before we get there, there's one more problem. The castle is finished, or at least it looks finished. The roof is repaired, the walls are stable, the heating works, the plumbing works, the photographs look fantastic. Finally, after years of work, the project is complete. Except castles are never complete. That's another thing nobody tells you. A normal house eventually reaches a point where everything works. A castle reaches a point where something else breaks. Historic property owners in the UK report annual maintenance costs that can easily reach 6 figures. Some larger estates spend substantially more just keeping deterioration under control. One roof project ends, another begins. One wall is restored, another starts deteriorating. One drainage issue disappears, a different one appears. The castle behaves less like a building and more like a subscription service. The subscription just happens to cost hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. And unlike Netflix, cancellation is not particularly straightforward. At this point, a sensible person might ask a sensible question. Why not sell? The answer is surprisingly simple, because selling isn't always easy either. The pool of people looking for a medieval Scottish castle is not particularly large. You're trying to sell a centuries-old fortress with unusual maintenance requirements, complicated regulations, and heating bills that occasionally resemble luxury car payments. This is not exactly a mass-market product, which means many owners eventually arrive at the same conclusion. The castle needs a job, and that changes everything. Because the moment a castle needs to earn money, it stops behaving like a home and starts behaving like a business, a wedding venue, a hotel, a tourist attraction, a filming location, a corporate retreat, a ghost tour, anything that generates revenue. The castle is effectively monetizing its own existence. And once you see that, a strange pattern emerges. The most successful castle owners are often not the people who treat the castle like a house. They're the people who treat it like a brand. The building provides the setting. The history provides the narrative. The narrative attracts attention. The attention generates revenue. The same story appears again and again. People are not paying to look at stone. They're paying to participate in a story. Nobody travels halfway around the world because a wall is unusually thick. They travel because a king once slept there, because a battle happened nearby, because the place appears in a movie. The building creates the story. The story creates the attention, and the attention creates the value. Suddenly, the economics look completely different. The castle stops behaving like real estate and starts behaving like a media company. A wedding venue happens to contain a castle. A hotel happens to contain a castle. A tourist attraction happens to contain a castle. The stone walls are not the product, they're the packaging. The narrative is the product. And once you see that, one of the strangest chapters in modern Scottish history begins to make sense. Between the 1950s and the early 2000s, hundreds of Scottish castles and tower houses were restored. And here's the remarkable part. Many of the people who took on these projects had no family connection to the buildings. No ancestral claim, no inheritance, no obvious financial incentive. They simply became obsessed. The average real estate investor buys an asset expecting returns. Castle restorers often buy a problem expecting purpose. They spend years rebuilding towers, repairing walls, fighting planning applications, managing contractors, and pouring money into projects that may never fully pay for themselves. From a purely financial perspective, some of these decisions make very little sense, but castles don't operate entirely on financial logic. The owner stops behaving like an investor and starts behaving like a custodian. The castle existed before them. It survived wars, political upheaval, economic crises, generations of owners, and with any luck, it will still be standing long after they're gone. They're simply the latest person responsible for keeping it alive. Which brings us back to the original question. Why are Scottish castles sometimes so cheap? Because you're not buying a giant house. You're inheriting centuries of deferred maintenance, leaking roofs, cold walls, planning restrictions, endless repairs. But that's only half the transaction, because you're also inheriting something much rarer. Narrative. The biggest mistake people make is thinking Scottish castles are real estate. They're not. Real estate is valued by future cash flow. Castles are valued by memory, by history, by identity, by narrative. That's why people continue spending fortunes restoring buildings that are expensive to maintain, difficult to modernize, and sometimes impossible to justify financially. They're not buying shelter. They're buying significance. They're buying a role in a story that started hundreds of years before they arrived. And stories have a strange habit of becoming more valuable with age.